All right, today we are jumping into a really fascinating and, I have to say, pretty provocative piece of writing. It's called the XLED Project, and it's a philosophical journey that kicks off in a place you would never, ever expect.
It all starts with this. Just 2 words. Children hurt. The author, Davi Acioli, wants that phrase to just hang in the air for a second. What on earth could that mean? And who is saying it?
Well, you might think this comes from some deep philosophical text, right? Nope. Turns out the context is about as normal as it gets. This is a sentence the author overheard while shopping for fruit and vegetables.
And that brings us to our starting point. This simple, overheard sentence, spoken by some teachers about their students, is actually the launchpad for this whole deep dive into modern life, technology, and believe it or not, our own sense of reality.
So you can almost picture it, right? The teachers saw these kids as a real handful. They're describing this whirlwind of energy, running around, screaming, and I find this part fascinating, processing information at light speed. But the author, he sees something totally different. He calls children golden prizes. And that contrast, right there, is the key to this entire thing.
So, what's causing this huge disconnect? Well, the author doesn't waste any time pointing the finger at a culprit, something most of us are holding right now, the gadget on your palm. This is where the critique of our modern world really kicks into high gear.
And listen, the author does not pull any punches here, calling the internet, quote, one of the most dangerous evil things which promises immortality. That is a really stark and powerful accusation, isn't it? The whole idea is that this digital world gives us this fake version of forever, and in the process, it steals something really essential from us. And this is such a great way to picture the problem. On one side, you've got your authentic history, your real story, which the author poetically imagines being read by a gypsy. But on the other side, your digital history, the story told by, and I quote, Mr. Google and his dubious friends. We are literally trading one for the other.
And this quote just brilliantly lays out the consequences. The argument is that once your story is handed over to the algorithm, that authentic, human, readable part of you, it's just gone. The gypsy, who's a symbol for intuition and that deep human connection, just can't see you clearly anymore.
So all of this spirals down into the one fundamental question that technology, with all its noise and distractions, makes it almost impossible for us to answer. Who am I? Like, really?
And why don't we go looking for the answer? Well, according to the text, it's because we are, and this is a direct quote with his spelling, too weak and tired. It's just easier to let Google suggest who we are than to do the incredibly hard work of figuring it out for ourselves.
Okay, so this is where the author stops explaining and starts challenging. This isn't just a theory anymore. This is a direct task for you.
He calls this Task 1. And it sounds super simple, doesn't it? Go on, look around the room you're in right now. Okay, now close your eyes and really try to remember the details, where everything is. Now try to reach out and touch something specific without looking.
But here's the kicker. The prediction is you won't make it. The author is totally convinced that in our disconnected state, even a simple physical task like this is beyond us, that we've lost our sense of space, our real tactile connection to the world right in front of us.
Which leads to this very direct, almost confrontational question. Did you actually try it? Are you a challenger, brave, or stupid? Did you break anything? We're literally being forced to confront our own awareness, or maybe our lack of it.
And that confrontation leads us to the final, and in my opinion, most brilliant pivot in this entire text. The author is about to completely reframe the problem we started with.
Remember where this whole thing began? We were in a supermarket, listening to teachers talk about troubled children. The whole setup positioned us to see the kids as the problem that needed to be fixed.
Right. We were seeing them through the teacher's eyes. Chaotic, unfocused, maybe a little out of control. We saw them as the ones who were loose and clueless, even while they were processing information at these incredible speeds.
But now, after everything we've just walked through, our addiction to technology, our potential failure at a simple physical task, our lost sense of self, the author drops this absolute bombshell of a question. Or, would it be easier to change your mind and assume you're the damaged adult? Wow. What if the kids aren't the problem at all? What if we are?
And that question brings us right to the very end, the final mandate from the author. After turning our whole perspective completely upside down, we're left with one last instruction.
So think about that journey. We went from a supermarket to a critique of the internet
to a physical challenge, and then finally to this reevaluation of who is truly damaged. What are we supposed to do with all of that?
Well, the author's final words are these: be afraid, be curious. Be afraid of this disconnected state that we might be in, but be curious enough to challenge it, to question everything you think you know, and to maybe, just maybe, see the world a little differently. What a thought to end on.